Here are my top 10 unpopular bookish opinions. Please take these with a grain of salt. This is just my personal opinion, and I don't want anyone to get offended, but if you feel convicted in any way as a Christian listening to any of these, that's the Holy Spirit, that's not me. So let's get into this. I know people say not to judge a book by its cover, but I definitely do. If the cover is not intriguing enough, I know the synopsis won't be intriguing enough, and then that's gonna make me not want to read the book. My brain just will not let me read more than one book at a time. It's different if I'm like listening to an audiobook and then physically reading a book. That's totally different because I feel like that's two parts of my brain that are working separately from each other, but I cannot like read two physical books at the same time, and vice versa. I can't listen to two audiobooks at a time. I just can't. It's different if I'm like reading one physical book and listening to one audiobook, but I just can't do two of both of the same, if that makes sense. Here's where it gets a little bit more controversial. So if you're a Christian, listen up. I do not think that as followers of Christ that we should be reading smut in books. Even if there is smut in books and that you just skip over them, I don't believe that is even right either, because you're still opening yourself up to that temptation. Even if you don't deal with the temptation of lust, it does say in the Bible to flee from sin, and that literally means flee. Run for the hills, okay? That doesn't mean dance around it like skipping lust or smutty scenes in books. That literally means flee. So that means, in practical terms, just don't read books that have smut in it. Personally, as a follower of Christ, as a Christian, I don't think there's anything wrong with having sex scenes in books. I do have some books that are favorites of mine that include sex scenes, but they're not smut, if that makes sense. There's definitely a difference between smut and having sex in books, if that makes sense. Smut, I classify as like very lustful. It's basically corn, if you get my drift. And then just having simply like sex in books, it serves a purpose in the book. Like, sex within itself is not sinful whatsoever. God actually created sex and it's very natural, but if you do it in the correct way in a book, that's all that matters to me. And if it doesn't tempt me to think about like any lustful thoughts, then that's all that matters. To the same extent, I don't think young adult books should have sexual content in them, because even though we all know that young adults truly do know what sex is, and they probably have done stuff, I'm sure of it. I mean, they're teenagers and it's inevitable for them to be curious about that kind of stuff, but we shouldn't be encouraging it. Technically, young adults are still minors. They're under the age of 18, and I do feel like it's a bit grooming like-ish of the author to be putting sexual content in young adult books. Also, not all Christian fiction books are cheesy or corny. I know Christian fiction tends to get the bad rep of like being full of cheese and super corny, but some of my favorite books of all time are considered Christian fiction, including Francine Rivers' Redeeming Love, and also her book called The Masterpiece, and also her series called The Mark of the Lion trilogy, if I'm not mistaken. But definitely take a look at some Christian fiction that you would be interested in, and I will tell you that you will not be disappointed. I also consider 3-star ratings bad because of the pure fact that I unhaul books that are 3.5 stars or under. I consider 3 stars kind of average and mid, and there's a lot of either plot holes missing or not a lot of character development in the books, and hence why they are pretty average and mid. There's a lot of things that the author could have done a lot better in order to make the story go along a lot faster or a lot better or more enjoyable. So in my eyes, 3 stars is a bad rating because it was average and mid. And why would you want your book just to be average and mid? I think books should try to blow you out of the water. I'm also not a big fan of special edition books because, in my opinion, I feel like books are meant to be read and not just looked at. Of course, do you want your bookshelves, like the one behind me, to look pretty? Yes, but at the end of the day, books are meant to be read. And I never thought I would be saying this because I was always like a hardcover girly, but now I am not a big fan of hardcovers anymore. I am a paperback girl through and through. They're just so much easier to read, and the only reason why I would even get a hardcover now is if it's a special edition, and like I mentioned before, I'm not even a big fan of special editions in the first place, so there you go. I also don't read series back to back. I feel like just the way that my brain works, I have to break series up a little bit. Otherwise, I'm going to get into like a reading slump from just burning out on a certain plot line or characters for too long. And lastly, not every book deserves a 5-star rating. Don't be mad at me, but the thing is like a lot of books that I really enjoyed, I gave 4 stars, okay? I don't want people to just like overhype books anymore. That's one of the things I'm sick of on here is like overhyping books and being like, ah, this is the most amazing book ever. Like, no, chill out. Yes, did you enjoy it? But is it like the best book you've ever read? Calm down.